And we got another situation. It's not getting late, but it is getting dark. This is not approved by their homeowners situation. These clients are getting rental assistance. Part of the reason why it's a low-paying job in general. I'm just going to undo this so that I can have access to the wall. This one is steady, but I wanted to change out the screws. These guys are shorter and the threads aren't as dramatic as these. And if I do well enough, I might be able to get it in. These are a little bit too long, but again, it's a low-end project. No real materials provided. It has a decent payout, but it's not the best. Okay, so I do my contracting work based on how much the client agrees to pay. This is technically a handyman job. I'm going to pull this guy out and switch it out with these longer screws. They're drywall screws, and I technically don't install drywall into wood. I don't. But for the purpose of this video, I'll probably cut like 1/4 or 5/8 of an inch off so that I can get it in there with a deeper thread. That will grip this wood. It's already been piloted out. Now, if you're not familiar with that term, a pilot hole is a hole that was pre-drilled, and then you come back with your screw and you push it up in there. In general, pilot holes are for tile, stonework, sometimes wood. If you're doing, like, say you're anchoring down with a bolt, something really big that could split the wood or give too much friction and start cooking it. You don't want to go through all that. Basically, you'll get your drill bit, drill your pilot hole out, and then you'll get your anchoring bolt or your whatever bolt you're going to use. Sometimes they're threaded for the wood. Sometimes they're threaded for a nut to go on the opposite side with a washer in between. And then you tighten both ends and you got it fastened, okay? Now that's usually what I'll do on an install for like a back patio, some sort of awning or something like that. Something with a heavy duty application. In general, my pilot holes, like in this case, are to guide the process. These tips are going to be cut off here in a second. So I'm going to cut them off and run them back in so that they don't penetrate through the top of the baluster rail. So I got to cut off 1/2 inch just about, and then I'll be able to grip everything in there. And since it doesn't have to excavate all that wood matter, the threads themselves will thrust it forward as I use my driver. Now, in this case, the bracket itself is loose, as you can see. So what I'm going to do there, I'm going to take out the screws that are holding the rail to the bracket. I don't know what that sound was. Oh, the bracket piece fell off on the second one on the bottom. All right, now we're going to set this to the side, right? And we can't set it too far to the side. Let's see what you can see here. Let's go like that. Bam. Now, as you can see, this one's loose, right? This is going to drywall. You can see that if you can see the texture in the video, there's been some drywall repair right here. I don't know what happened. I don't know the history of the house. I know that it is old, and these screws are so strict. So in order to keep that from happening again, these are longer, but they're still not drywall screws, okay? Now, you can fit them for drywall. These are more so anchoring screws for like picture frames and whatnot. But the drywall screws, let me give you a comparison up close and personal. This guy here is the one that came out, and this guy here is the one that's going to go in. You see the difference with the threads and the spacing. So the thread spacing is a lot more dramatic here, which means it won't kind of drywall. If you watched any of my former videos, I've explained that it's basically a dried mud, and made out of gypsum. And what happens is when you use something too thin like this, you tend to pulverize it and they don't catch. So drywall screws are engineered for it to run through that mud, slice through it in a spiral rotation going into whatever substrate you're going to be screwing into. But the good purpose about it is that it has gripping strength, probably double to this. The fact that it's longer also helps me to penetrate deeper. If I run into a stud, which I'm hoping these are installed on studs, then we're even better, okay? So you can't trust that everything is going to be the way that it should be. So I'm going to assume that the stud is behind this wall right here. And from what I hear, it is. So that's the old man's way of trying to find your stud without a stud finder, because it's not that serious of an application. We can check that one. You hear that hollow sound when you're not in the stud space? If you got a load-bearing wall like this one, you're going to have studs 16 inches on center, right? You could trust that that's why these are here. Now, I did double check, and that's why we're going to do this application in this format. Now, since I'm going in wood, I will need my impact driver, okay? And I'm going to put these right back where they were at, all right? Okay? Just with that one screw, this one's stripped, so I got to pull that one out somehow. Just with that one screw, it's already stable, right? That's part of the package deal that I was able to negotiate on installing the mirror down there and fixing those wires coming out of the garbage disposal. Now that conduit, now what I'm trying to do now is get a hook behind it. You can use your fingernail if you're a ruffian like myself, and you can put back pressure on that screw head and then reverse thread it, and it can come out. See that? Very easy. Now if you don't have that, I could have got my paint scraper, stuck it behind it. All I need when you're dealing with strict screws inside drywall, just lift it up enough so you can get like a flathead screwdriver or something wider, like a trowel or a paint scraper. Get that paint knife behind there and then lift it up and out as you unscrew it, and it'll come right on out for you. All right, so I'm going to reverse my direction, reinstall. Oh, it's stripped all the way out. Okay, so even though I went deeper, so what I understand is going on right here, the stud is, they didn't truly locate where the stud should have been. So they got, the stud is kind of running probably on the border of the center of this bracket here. And that's why I'm not touching anything. It's just going straight in. You don't have, this is not a heavy duty application. I'm doing it exactly how he asked me to do it. Now, again, if I was on a remodel or doing a first time application on my staircase, I would not leave it like this. But two are strong enough for this to be robust, right? So as you can see, I'm giving it a lock, and only one screw is technically holding it in. This screw here is just kind of keeping it balanced in the wall, but it's not anchoring it. So this one here, I know it's going to be in the stud. You hear that? So now I have two in the stud, and this is good to go. This one's golden. So I'm going to leave that one like that. This one's sturdy. They centered it well on that stud spacing. And then I'm going to get this guy reinstalled just the way that it was before. This is a hook version. I've installed these before. I did not use this same particular type. And they come as a unibody piece. So the bracket, the seating, both are one piece, all right? And so you gotta have all of that right as you measure and co-locate where your brackets are gonna be along the wall system and with the angle that this thing descends. Because you can do it kind of off, and if these two guys aren't the same distance from the bottom of the stairs to their seated area, both ways, and equidistant, however it needs to be balanced from each end or however you do it. I don't know if they went through those measures. Looks like this end is further along than that one, but to each his own. In that case, you want to make sure that everything is golden, okay? Now, because this is a two-piece system, it wraps around the bottom, and then we slide it back. We're going to get them in here. I'm going to repurpose this screw that I'll use here. Bam. I'll check to see. Sometimes I like to pre-thread my screws just so they stay in place like that. You'll see me do it with a driver on my wood so that when I'm installing wood overhead or at a distance or at an awkward angle, I don't have to fight with the screws, fight dropping them and all that other stuff. Sometimes I work with my work bag, my tool belt, and I'll have my screws in there, but most of the time I don't because it's very inconvenient. Alright, so whoever installed that screw there is not the same as the ones that I pulled out. That had the same type of veracity on the thread spacing and thread grip as the drywall screws. So that one by itself is already just doing what it needs to do. But I told you guys I was going to cut those things. So let's get them right. Let's look at these. These are good. But this other one is not. Here we go. Let's try these. Okay? We're going to try them out. If they don't work, we're going to replace them with the, because they do have the same as our drywall screws. Double checking. That's gold. All right. So we'll run that install. Good. So it's stable over here. I have my results. I may not need to go through that measure. And if you heard me in the last video, while I was doing the mirror, I tell people and myself that I'm gonna do certain things a certain way, and then by the time I get around to doing it, I've already changed my plan. And that's a good, a bad, and an ugly. Now, this should not have to be serviced anytime soon. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take this liquid nails, and I'm gonna put it on this bracket. That one's good. I know this one here is stripped because that bracket, remember, was sturdy. So because this one was stripped, I am going to give it some extra persuasion so that when I leave and come back tomorrow, it's gonna have the fastening power of 2 fasteners. Okay, so I'm gonna put a little bit there, rotate it around. Remember, hit this or it's gonna keep coming out. You see that? It's coming out slowly. If I were to set it horizontally, excuse me, you'll see it still pouring out slowly, right? So you turn your back, you start working, you got goop all over the floor. The only way to shortcut that is take the pressure off, put it back in neutral, okay? Bam. I always tell my guys, do not use your fingers if you got tools, all right? But I'm using my fingers tonight, and that's just how it's gonna be. I'm ready to go home, and it is what it is. So I'm just gonna set it like that. Tomorrow, not only will the screws be fastened, sorry about that. Not only will the screws be fastened, but they'll be locked in with this adhesive, right? Liquid nails. This stuff will save your life in many applications, and I recommend it. It's about $6 a container or tube, if I'm not mistaken, and it gets the job done, okay? So let's tie that first one in. Again, these are probably stripped, but I'm not. The object of the game is the easiest, most simple path is generally, not always, but generally the best. All right? But I just want to get this guy to touch. Now that I know that it is stripped, look at that. Solid, right? I don't know how long the video was, but I don't think it took more than 10 minutes besides the fact that I was talking. This simple fix, 3-4 minute process, bam, fix it up, you're good to go. Now, number 3 is next, and that is under the garbage disposal wiring. And then we pack up all this stuff and we get the heck up out of here, all right? So let's get that done. Oh, I also have to quote the carpet. So we'll be doing a video on the carpet upstairs. 2 rooms need to be replaced. I'll open the garage so you can see, which is already open, that he's got the carpet already, but he called his carpet guy and he asked me, he said, hey, my carpet guy isn't showing up and I can't get a hold of him. Do you know anyone that does carpet? I said, how many times I need to tell you that I do carpet? Multiple times I've told this guy. Every time he's got a new project. Hey, do you do this? Hey, do you install glass? Hey. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I told you I could build your house from the ground up. I meant that, okay? Now, I haven't done every single thing in the house. I have not built a complete house. But all of the differential aspects of building a house, I have done, right? From the toil to the tile, floor, electrical light installations, glass, wall installations, storm door, main door, whatever, okay? So it's not hard for me to attack these collectively. I have done them independently or separately on their each level of this walk of life that I've been doing. But in general, I always try to convince my clients that if you have anything that you need to do, let me know. I'll tell you if I can do it or what it's going to take, and I'll give you a quote for it. That's the best that I can offer. But I don't prefer that you ask me every time, can you do this? It starts to become a little irritating, right? So, but that is the consequence of being a contractor. Now, we walk up the stairs. I don't know if you guys have a good angle or not. Let me turn back to see. Perfect. All right. Now, you go upstairs. Here we go. No need to put the liquid nails on this one because it didn't have any issues. The issues on this one were in the back one, right? So, these are good. Back out the way.